70 days after a string of gang-related shootings started, they arrested 8 known gang members and connected them to 2 attempted accessory after the fact, shooting into an inhabited dwelling, and confiscated 49 weapons.
22-year-old Jerry Wembley Jr. and 20-year-old Jerry Wembley III are charged along with 37-year-old Vianney Richardson. The charges stem from shootings on June 25th that left 2 people.
Men have been charged with robbing Jesse Munoz at a scenic turnout on Angeles Crest Highway in Pasadena. In July, they're also charged with robbing a woman who was with Munoz. The men are identified as Luis Ventura, Marco Antonio Hernandez, and Abraham Ernesto Alvarenga Cortez.
Police have arrested 19-year-old Fabian Rojas. He's accused in the shooting death of Jesus Maldonado. It happened Wednesday on Allister Avenue near Burl Street.
Pasadena, California, known worldwide for the Rose Parade, the Rose Bowl Stadium, its historic Craftsman homes, and the legacy of icons like Jackie Robinson, who broke Major League Baseball's color barrier, Sally Field, who grew up in the area, and Sirhan Sirhan's infamous moment in political history. It's a city famous for art, architecture, million-dollar neighborhoods, and old Hollywood prestige. But behind the tree-lined streets and mountain views lies a far more complex reality. For decades, Pasadena has carried a quieter, darker story, one shaped by generational gang feuds.
The charges stem from shootings on June 25th that left 2 people dead and nearly killed a third. Authorities say the 3 are members of the PDL Bloods gang in Pasadena and Antelope Valley. Wembley III was arrested yesterday.
And fueling violence that rarely makes national headlines. In this documentary, we pull back the curtain on Pasadena's most alarming gang-related cases from 8 suspected savages who invaded Pasadena tied to a months-long shooting spree, to a burglary ring hitting homes from Thousand Oaks to Los Angeles, to the scenic overlooked deletion connected to MS-13, to weapons raids, fugitive takedowns, and even a federal RICO-style homicide spree in Lancaster led by Pasadena gang members. This is the Pasadena that never appears on postcards, the one detectives, families, and entire neighborhoods have been battling for years.
At least 3 people are dead and 2 others wounded, and police say it all started as a feud between rival gangs.
70 days after a string of gang-related shootings started, they arrested 8 known gang members and connected them to 2 attempted accessory after the fact, shooting into an inhabited dwelling, and confiscated 49 weapons, many of them assault weapons. Known gang members in gang territory, and people talked, some reluctantly, but they gave information. From last December until mid-February, week after week it seemed, there was some type of gang shooting in Pasadena. This is how out of hand things became. There was a vigil held for that December shooting. The date was January 6th. It was right here where I'm standing. At the vigil, there was a drive-by shooting. 3 more people were shot. 2 of them died. A woman at the vigil was struck, and she ran down the street, around the corner, to get help for herself at the fire station.
Between December 2016 and January 2017, Pasadena was hit by a violent surge of gang-related attacks that detectives later confirmed were part of a brewing war between 2 rival sets, Pasadena-Denver Lane Bloods and Duarte's Duroc Crips. Over several weeks, 3 people met their demise and 2 more seriously wounded in a string of coordinated shootings that struck neighborhoods already on edge. To residents, the violence felt sudden and senseless. But to seasoned investigators, the patterned late-night drive-ups, targeted ambushes, and quick escapes looked like the work of an out-of-town crew hunting Pasadena rivals. The first demise occurred on December 22, 2016, when 25-year-old Brandon Douglas, a man detectives said had ties to the Pasadena-Denver Lane Bloods, was shot multiple times on North Fair Oaks Avenue. The attack was carried out from a vehicle that had been spotted earlier cruising slowly through Pasadena. Behavior detectives later tied to Duroc Crips members scouting for targets. 2 weeks later, on January 6, 2017, mourners gathered for Douglas's vigil on West Claremont Street. As dozens of people stood outside grieving, a car cut its headlights and rolled toward the group. Gunmen opened fire into the crowd. 24-year-old Antoine Sudfin Jr. and 24-year-old Ormoni Duncan, Both known by law enforcement to be affiliated with Pasadena-Denver Lane Bloods met their demise. A woman standing near them was also shot and survived. Minutes later, another burst of gunfire struck an occupied home nearby, which prosecutors later used as the basis for the shooting into an inhabited dwelling charges. As Pasadena detectives began comparing shell casings, tracking vehicles, pulling security footage, and interviewing wary witnesses, the truth became clear. The shooters were part of a squad of Duroc Crips members who had been driving into Pasadena specifically to hit their rivals from PDL Bloods. The feud between the two sets had been simmering for years, rooted in territory, past shootings, and the long-standing Blood versus Crip rivalry that stretches across Los Angeles County. Evidence showed planning rather than spontaneous violence. Coordinated car swaps, phones turned off before attacks, and consistent ballistic matches. 8 suspected members of the Duroc Crips were identified. 4 of them were arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree deletion, 2 counts of attempted deletion, conspiracy to commit deletion, shooting from a vehicle, shooting into an inhabited dwelling, and multiple gang enhancements. Detectives described Lee as a key instigator and organizer within the Duroc Crips subset responsible for orchestrating the Pasadena attacks. One additional defendant, Andrew Vasquez, was acquitted, but prosecutors emphasized that the core hit team had been successfully removed from the streets. At trial, jurors heard how the Duroc Crips squad allegedly traveled into Pasadena specifically to target PDL members, turning neighborhoods like Fair Oaks, Claremont Street, and the surrounding blocks into active battlegrounds. Once convicted, the defendants were handed life without parole sentences, effectively ending the violent Pasadena-Duarte feud that had terrorized residents for months. Detectives later said they believe the crew may have been involved in other unreported shootings tied to the rivalry.
The gang members, well, police believe they are behind a murder. We're talking about 5 men arrested in Panorama City and a woman arrested in South Los Angeles. According to the Pasadena Police Department, they believe they are behind the murder of 32-year-old Jesse Munoz last weekend while he sat in his car on Angeles Crest Highway. And now police believe that was not an isolated incident. They believe the gang could also be behind the murders of Jorge Ramos and Taylor Raven Whitaker, who were shot to death inside Ramos' car at Pelican Cove Park in Rancho Palos Verdes this weekend. The gang say detectives operating with a very distinctive M.O.
Targeting victims who were parked in scenic turnouts or areas that were somewhat desolate with very little, cell phone reception. And in most cases, those victims were distracted when they were assaulted.
Brought in the early hours of July 22, 2023. Jesse Enrique Munoz drove with a female companion to a scenic overlook off Angeles Crest Highway above Pasadena, a spot meant for quiet views of the city. Instead, it turned into a deadly ambush. Detectives say a group of armed suspects walked up to their parked car, robbed the couple at gunpoint, and opened fire. Munoz met his demise while his companion survived the holdup. Pasadena police quickly realized this matched a pattern. In the weeks before the shooting, a string of late-night robberies had been targeting parked cars at remote turnouts along Angeles Crest, with victims forced at gunpoint to hand over property before the suspects vanished back down the mountain. Using roadway cameras, vehicle tracking, and victim interviews, detectives identified a suspect car tied to the night Munoz met his demise. On July 25th, just 3 days later, a coordinated operation took down 5 male suspects and 1 female. Inside their vehicle, officers recovered 2 semi-automatic handguns, and ballistics later confirmed one of them was used in the demise of Munoz. Prosecutors quickly filed robbery charges. Luis Ventura was charged with 2 counts of armed robbery for the holdup of Munoz and his companion, while Wendy Cerritos and Rossel Joshua Hernandez were each hit with multiple robbery counts tied to earlier gunpoint stick-ups along the highway. On August 29th, homicide detectives launched another wave of raids that led to the arrests of Abraham Ernesto Alvarenga Cortez and Marco Antonio Hernandez, believed to be core members of the same robbery crew. After meeting with prosecutors on August 31st, Ventura, Cortez, and Marco Hernandez were all formally charged with 1 count of deletion and 2 counts of robbery. with firearm and gang enhancements tied directly to Munoz's demise at the Overlook. As the case expanded, gang investigators identified the crew as members or associates of the Mara Salvatrucha MS 13th Street gang and began linking their Angeles Crest robberies to other violent crimes across Los Angeles County, including a double homicide in Rancho Palos Verdes, where Jorge Ramos and Taylor Raven Whitaker met their demise in a parked car during an attempted robbery. Evidence from that scene, including ballistics and digital data, pointed back to the same network, positioning Marco Hernandez as a key defendant in a broader triple homicide investigation, while Cerritos and Russell Hernandez faced additional robbery charges tied to the larger.
Got an update on the murder of a young man in Pasadena. Police have arrested 19-year-old Fabian Rojas. He's accused in the shooting death of Jesus Maldonado. It happened Wednesday on Allister Avenue near Burl Street. Court documents indicate Maldonado was involved in a fist fight with another person when Rojas allegedly shot him.
On October 2019, in Pasadena, California, a gathering of young men quickly turned into tragedy. According to investigators, two groups arranged a meeting in the 200 block of Allister Avenue under the guise of a fight out an informal gang confrontation. As tensions escalated, Fabian Rojas allegedly pulled out a firearm and fired multiple rounds at one of the opposing group's members, striking Jesus Maldonado. The victim was pronounced dead after being transported to a hospital. Pasadena police homicide detectives reviewed social media and cell phone video of the fight, which captured the shooting and helped identify Rojas as the shooter. Investigators also flagged Rojas as a documented gang member, which added gang enhancements to the potential charges. Rojas was arrested and charged.
3 alleged gang members are facing federal and racketeering charges over a shooting spree in Lancaster. 22-year-old Jerry Wimbley Jr. and 20-year-old Jerry Wimbley III are charged along with 37-year-old Vianney Richardson. The charges stem from shootings on June 25th that left 2 people dead and nearly killed a third. Authorities say the 3 are members of the PDL Bloods gang in Pasadena and Antelope Valley.
Between the night of June 25, 2024, and the early hours that followed, investigators say a Pasadena-affiliated gang went on a coordinated shooting spree in Lancaster. Violence prosecutors believe was carried out to honor a slain gang member. Federal authorities arrested Jerry Wimbley, charging him with 2 counts of deletion in aid of racketeering, a charge used when deletions are committed to elevate a gang status. His co-defendants include Vianney Richardson and Jerry Wimbley Jr., both of whom face similar racketeering counts. According to the indictment, the spree began when Richardson allegedly shot and wounded a man in the first attack. Hours later, Richardson and the Wimbley brothers allegedly regrouped and carried out a second shooting at Carter Park, deleting 1 victim, then drove to a Lancaster gas station where a third person was fatally shot. All 3 shootings happened within a tight time window, pointing to a planned series of retaliatory or symbolic gang hits rather than random violence. Federal prosecutors say the group had gathered earlier that evening at the gravesite of a deceased gang member, posting messages and coded imagery on social media promising to put in work in his honor. Investigators claim the defendants continued posting throughout the violence, creating a digital trail tying them directly to the crimes. Between the spring and summer, detectives in Los Angeles and Ventura counties started seeing the same pattern. High-end homes in Thousand Oaks, nearby unincorporated areas, and parts of Ella County getting hid in clean, daytime burglaries. The crew slipped in through rear sliders or windows while residents were at work, went straight for bedrooms and closets, and stole jewelry, cash, handbags, and electronics. Quick, surgical hits that clearly weren't random. A break came when evidence from 1000 Oaks job pointed to Pasadena residents Terrence Hall and Keith Callum, documented members of a Pasadena street gang known for burglary runs and home invasions. Working together, Ventura and LA investigators used surveillance, plate readers, and phone data to track a traveling burglary crew using rental and borrowed cars to case neighborhoods and strike only when homes were empty. They later uncovered an insider at a residential cable company who was allegedly feeding them information on home layouts, residences' schedules, and camera locations. By the time the case went public, Detectives believed the crew was behind at least 5 burglaries in Ventura County and 8 in Ella County. With more cases likely to be linked as stolen property was identified and additional suspects were brought in. Pasadena police say the October 10th raids were the result of months of rising violence tied to a Pasadena-based street gang involved in armed robberies, gun crimes, and retaliation attacks across the San Gabriel Valley. Detectives had linked the crew to a pattern of late summer crimes. Victims robbed at gunpoint in parking lots and near apartments, homes and rival hangouts hit with gunfire and vandalism, and social media clips showing members flashing guns and boasting about confrontations. In several cases, witnesses described the same vehicles circling blocks before shots were fired, and shell casings from different scenes began matching up, pointing back to the same small group of suspects. Because the gang had a history of shootings and standoffs with law enforcement, Pasadena PD launched a multi-location pre-dawn takedown with SWAT and partner agencies. 5 suspects, 3 adults and 2 juveniles were arrested and booked on multiple felonies, including armed robbery, illegal weapons possession, high-capacity magazine violations, and felony vandalism. Detectives say the operation was aimed at stopping the crew before their escalating gun violence triggered even more serious retaliation on Pasadena's streets. Pasadena may shine with Rose Parade beauty and historic landmarks, but these cases reveal the city's hidden battleground, a world of deadly gang feuds, organized burglary crews, highway ambushes, and violent retaliation stretching far beyond city limits. From multi-suspect deletion investigations to federal racketeering indictments, detectives and federal partners have spent years dismantling crews that once operated in the shadows. And while many cases are still unfolding in court, each arrest and takedown represents a step toward restoring safety for families and neighborhoods caught in the crossfire. Beneath Pasadena's polished image lies a fight for peace, and the work to break the cycle of violence is far from over, but the momentum is finally shifting.